Once upon a time, there was a game called Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Gamers were very excited to try the newest installment in the CS series. But that excitement wouldn't last long, because the birth of Counter-Strike's biggest villain would soon arrive. Aimware first became a thing in early 2014. If you try to think of a CSGO cheat, chances are the first one that'll come to mind is Aimware. It's by far the biggest and most well-known cheat. As of this moment, the cheat has over 500,000 registered accounts on the website, with that number going up every day. Aimware does have cheats for other games, such as Left 4 Dead or Garry's Mod, but the main attraction is definitely CS. In 2014, there weren't many CSGO cheats around, and the few that were around were pretty bad, and had very little to no features. Aimware would arrive to the scene and almost instantly become one of the top players. Aimware didn't just have a simple aimbot and wall hacks. It had many cool features such as Spinbot or Autostrafe. Keep in mind, these features weren't as common back then. With a ton of good testimonies from MyGOT members, Aimware would soon become a household name. Everyone was eager to rep it and advertise it. This was back when every kid felt like cheating in a video game was the coolest thing ever, so they got a ton of free publicity. It became almost impossible to play CSGO and not know what Aimware was. Its simple but catchy name and iconic red shade and logo would make Aimware very memorable. With how notorious Aimware was, it's not a huge surprise that Valve would soon target it. Aimware wasn't exactly known for its security, so it wouldn't take long for it to get detected. After it was fully detected, it would get updated and then detected again a few weeks later. This would become a pattern. It got detected so many times, it became a meme, and Aimware might as well have been a part of VAC, since you were basically guaranteed to get banned within weeks. Despite the broken promises and lies told from the Aimware staff about how much they supposedly cared about the safety of their users, the truth is, they didn't care at all, and they were perfectly content with just making sure the cheat worked. After all, you'd have to be a complete idiot to use Aimware on a decent account. Although, back then, a decent account was like level 50 with a $300 knife. With how long Aimware has been around, it's normal and expected for it to dip in quality. It's rare for something to just always be top tier. Sadly, Aimware didn't just have normal dips. It had massive Grand Canyon Pit of Hell dips. There were a few times where Aimware was genuinely amazing, but most of the time, it was mediocre at best. For legit cheating, you had better options, and why do you use Aimware for legit cheating is a mystery of its own. For rage hacking, there were almost always better options out there. One reason Aimware was really bad at times is because the staff were always in denial. Aimware staff were notorious for putting their heads in the sand. Anytime someone complained about the cheat, they would blame the person for either having a bad config or a bad playstyle. They refused to acknowledge that maybe the cheat sucked and needed a desperate update, even when the cheat couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. This is where the meme config issue or user issue came from. The truth is, they knew it was bad. They just didn't care. They were making bank, and people were buying subs anyways, and that's all that matters. Back then, HVH had two different modes. And no, I don't mean desync and fake angles, I mean before that. It was no spread HVH and spread HVH. Spread HVH is what everyone that still plays HVH does to this day. No spread HVH was on custom maps, and everyone basically just used max fake lag and jumped in circles to gain velocity and then jumped around the map and see which cheat would shoot first and not miss. When you thought about HVH, you thought about no spread. It was more popular than normal HVH. Aimware was one of the best cheats for no spread. Aimware dominated no spread servers for a very long time. If you had Aimware, you were going to do good. Of course, you still had to not be completely clueless. Unfortunately, no spread died around 2019, and to this day has remained dead. Aimware went through several different versions and several different menus. From V1 and V2 to V3 to V4 and finally V5, The original menu was almost too simple, but it did the job. V3 was my favorite, and I'd say looked the overall cleanest. V4 looked awful, and Alienware staff seemed to agree since it didn't last long. Then V5 came out and its menu is still used to this day. Since a lot of people struggled to make a config since pressing buttons was too hard and no one knew what half the features did or how anti-aim even worked. Version 5 came out and included giant pictures and models so even a monkey could understand how to make a config. If the staff of Alienware were a crime family, Zim was definitely the mob boss. He's ruthless, a millionaire, and even calls himself boss. Swiss Guy was the right-hand man, Badster was the underboss, Polak was the brains of the operation, and they had grunts who would moderate the forums, such as Arpak or Koshan. Even lower than the grunts were the Alienware beta testers, basically the unpaid interns. Zim is the owner of Alienware, but despite that, most people would say Polak was the face of Alienware. Polak was the lead coder and worked on the cheat the majority of the time. Badster and the others would occasionally help out, but they were pretty lazy and content with letting Polak do most of the updates. In 2023, Polak, who was the lead developer of Alienware since the beginning, would finally leave. It was a surprise to everyone. A lot of people assumed Polak was just retiring and moving on, but people realized that wasn't the case after Polak leaked the entirety of Alienware. Polak made the site alienware.pl, where you could download and use Alienware for free. So why did Polak do this? Well, he did an interview with Tubbyware, and long story short, he was upset that he was getting paid the same amount as everyone else, despite doing the majority of the work, and also not being paid properly. So basically he felt the pain of everyone that works anywhere. Many people thought Alienware getting leaked and losing Polak would mean the cheat would finally die. With the entire cheat leaked and the lead dev gone, it wasn't looking good for Zim. Yet, despite all odds, Alienware would actually live on and come back stronger, and at the perfect time. With CSGO now irrelevant, the CSGO beta would release, and instantly Alienware would release their CS2 cheat. When the open beta first came out, Alienware was amazing. It was 2014 all over again. There were very few CS2 cheats that worked at the time, and none of them came close or stood a chance. Alienware dominated the beta. From streamers to pros, no one was safe, and everyone felt the pain. No spread was back, so jumping around with perfect accuracy in matchmaking would finally make its return. Magic Bullet, which was first introduced by Alienware, would let people shoot through entire maps. Peace Silent would also make its return. Alienware was back on top, and the money was rolling in. All good things must come to an end though. Once the beta was over, Alienware would get detected a few times, get cracked, and slowly become worse and fall behind other cheats, such as Neverlose or GameSense, which were both way better. As of now, Alienware is in a weird limbo state where it hasn't been detected in a few months, but the cheat is pretty lackluster, and Valve also hasn't put any effort into detecting any cheats for months now. Cheat has been down for weeks and hasn't been updated, and who knows how long that'll last. Overall, Alienware, for better or worse, is easily the most influential cheat in the history of Counter-Strike, and it won't be going away anytime soon.